We're all very excited. Come on, closer. Come on over. Welcome. Hey, Democrats, how we doing? Well, thank you all for joining us today in front of this most perfect location here in Hartford. Thank you all for joining us. What a day to be a Democrat. I'm Jimmy Tickey. I'm vice chair of our Connecticut Democratic Party, and so proud to be here today. You know, in 2020, when President Biden and Vice President Harris were elected, they brought us back from the brink, and working together with the Democratic Congress, they passed the most historic investments in infrastructure. They lowered the price of prescription drugs for seniors. They made the most historic enactment of climate change legislation in history and passed the first gun safety law in 30 years. Donald Trump spends his time dividing people and trying to roll back our long-held freedoms. It's wrong. Some say it's weird. And today, we are unified, we are energized, and we are ready to go for the next 90 days to elect Kamala Harris as president and Tim Walz as vice president. Please join me in welcoming our leader of our Connecticut Democratic Party, the first woman to ever hold the position as chair. Please welcome Nancy DiNardo.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming today. I have seen a lot of elections, as I'm sure many of you have also, including some very challenging ones. But the events of 2024, in particular, what we have seen in the past 2 weeks, have been extraordinary. The energy and excitement we've seen in the past 2 weeks for Kamala Harris is very real, and it's not going to fade. Connecticut Democrats, as we always do, are going to work hard every day to deliver our state, and we will also help in other states in any way that we can. I don't think my Republican counterpart has quite caught up yet. He's still stuck on repeating last month's MAGA talking points. But Connecticut voters know better, and we have a lot of work to do between now and November 5th. But we can do this. I'm proud to be here today with these amazing leaders that we have, and I look forward to formally endorsing Kamala Harris in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Please welcome our State Treasurer, Eric Russell.
So, good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see everyone here. Thank you to the leadership of the Connecticut Democratic Party, who has done such incredible work. Jimmy and Nancy leading the charge here during some really challenging times, some interesting times. But it is great to be here unified today. I want to start just by extending a debt of gratitude to President Biden. We have seen over the last 3.5 to 4 years incredible progress, and the president stepping up during one of the most difficult times in this country's history, walking into a pandemic during a time that we've been more divided than many would say ever, and he has led with dignity and with integrity, and we've seen him have one of the most successful presidencies in recent history. And much like has defined the rest of his career, we've also seen incredible acts of selflessness by him deciding to step aside and pass the baton to Vice President Harris, who will be leading us into the election in November. And since that baton was passed, the amount of energy has been incredible, right? We have been unified. You're seeing it from people all across the country. You see it in the fundraising. You see it in the energy and folks signing up to volunteer. And that's what we're going to have rolling into November, because American people know what is at stake in this election. We're looking at a time where we are looking at a candidate who's looking to roll us backwards, who is feeding off of rhetoric and division, who doesn't respect the rule of law, who happens to be a convicted felon. The list goes on. And then the other side of that is someone who is looking to lead us into the future, who is focused on unifying our party, unifying our country, who knows that our strength as a country is in our diversity, and that is celebrating that, and who knows that we are all better off when everyone in our country has an opportunity to flourish and to participate in a meaningful way. And so we're standing here in unison today, choosing to fight for that future and choosing to fight to move America forward. And we are so fortunate that we have incredible leaders in Vice President Harris and, as of this morning, in Governor Tim Walz, to be those leaders to lead us into the future. Listen, we know that there is a lot of work to do. We know what is at stake, and we know that we're going to see unprecedented attacks directed at Vice President Harris. We've already seen that in many ways from leaders here in the Republican Party in Connecticut. We're going to look at someone who has been the district attorney in San Francisco, who's been the attorney general of the most populous state in this country, who has served as a United States senator and then most recently as vice president, and say that she's not experienced. And what it simply is that these efforts to say that someone is there simply because of the color of their skin or because they're a woman, that they are not fit to lead, is what we are hearing. And it is our job, not just Vice President Harris, not just Governor Walz, to push back on this, to tell our story to the American people about what we want the future of this country to look like, how the importance of what is on the ballot this November. So listen, we know what the vision looks like, where every American has an opportunity to participate, where every American is treated with dignity and respect, where people are safe to worship where they want and are safe in schools and in their place of work. And I look forward to getting out there with all of you over the next several months to do the work, to deliver huge victories for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in November. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Treasurer. Please welcome our State Comptroller, Sean Scanlon.
All right, I'm going to be brief because we got a long program. Barack Obama was famously the guy who used to say to crowds, fired up, ready to go. And I have not seen a Democratic Party more fired up and ready to go than I've seen in the last few days, because we know, as Eric just said, what is at stake in this election. We know the choice that we're facing as a country. And we've got, as Jimmy said, about 90 days left to make sure that everybody in this state and this country hears the message that our party is saying, which is led by Vice President Harris, now Governor Walz, is a message focused on the future of this country, the place that we want to take America to make sure everybody in this country has an opportunity to succeed, has an opportunity to have an education, the health care that they need to survive, and so on and so on. And the other side of the aisle is not focused on the future. They are focused on the past and taking us back to a place that we have spent many, many years trying to overcome to make this country better. So the choice is clear. The team is now clear. We've got the team focused on the future of Connecticut and this country, and the other side does not. I am so proud to stand with everybody here and everybody across the state who's going to work really hard to make sure that Vice President Harris, who's sitting right there, is going to make history alongside the woman sitting right next to her, Ella Grasso. Historical moment for our country, an inflection point. We got 90 days. Let's win this. Fired up, ready to go. Let's go.
Thank you, Comptroller. Please welcome Congressman for the 1st Congressional District, who keeps the eagle flying, Congressman John Larson.
Oh, keep the eagle flying. Well, listen, what a great day this is. We're all thrilled. I have to be completely honest, though. My first choice for vice president would have been Joe Courtney, and so we're yes, a little bit disappointed in that. But Joe tells me not to worry. He's been on the phone with Tim. It's all set, and we're ready to go. But what an outstanding choice. Tim served with us in the House. An original co-sponsor of Social Security 2100, something we know that we're going to get through as Democrats. And as was said by our previous speaker, the excitement, the energy is pervasive. We're looking to go forward to Chicago, coming out of that convention with equally loud truck noise, and we'll be able to take this election by storm. God bless Harris. God bless Walz. God bless America. Go get 'em, Dems.
Our next speaker called it. He called Tim Walz, the next vice president. Please welcome Congressman Joe Courtney.
Hey, everybody. So first of all, I want to congratulate Nancy DiNardo for scheduling this press conference precisely at the same time that we had the big news here today, because it's just adding, again, to the excitement what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks as we head off to Chicago. So, you know, the first decision that a president makes is who you're going to govern with, who is going to be your running mate. And I think that Kamala Harris's decision this morning speaks volumes about the fact that she is prepared to do what's necessary and even different to make sure that our party at a critical election, I mean, there is so much at stake in 2024, has the strongest team to get out there. So this is the first ticket in a really long time, I think since Jimmy Carter, that does not have a lawyer on the ticket and has a school teacher that's on the ticket. When I got elected in 2006 by 83 votes, Tim, who represents southern Minnesota, which hadn't had a Democrat representing it in over a century, close race, flipped a seat. You know, we had that shared experience of running in a district which was not sort of your typical profile. And he's somebody who mastered that because of who he is. He grew up in a town of 400. He, again, was a public school teacher in a small high school. He was the coach of the football team that won the state title against all odds, defied all the predictions in terms of doing that. Served over 20 years in the Army National Guard, retired as a sergeant major. When he was elected to Congress, he is the highest enlisted service member in the history of the U.S. Congress. And when he served in Washington, and we were on the Armed Services Committee, and he was the leader on the Veterans Committee and the Ag Committee, he's somebody who, again, was there to deliver results for the people he represented. Totally authentic, totally genuine, can connect really with almost anyone, went on to become a governor who, just like Ned Lamont, was so instrumental in terms of advancing an agenda that really protected kids, strengthened families, led efforts for gun violence. Again, he had a background check, even though he is a strong supporter of the Second Amendment and a hunter, a real hunter. He doesn't do it just for photo ops that are out there. He brings so much to this ticket. And the fact that Vice President Harris recognized that and sort of stepped out of the conventional sort of, you know, process that normally dominates in Washington and asked him to be her running mate and govern together, again, is just another reason why she is the right person to lead this country to victory in 2024 and to lead this country to a higher and better place while she is President of the United States. Thank you very much.
Now, the road to Democrats taking back the House of Representatives comes right through Connecticut's 5th Congressional District, and we are going to be doing all we can to support our next speaker, Congresswoman Jahana Hayes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I have to tell you, first of all, I am thrilled by the fact that Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States of America. She is someone who I admire and respect and consider a friend. She has worked very closely with me to get funding for billions of dollars for clean school buses and for nutrition initiatives for children. And we've all seen her in the Senate break more ties than any VP and travel around the world, bringing diplomacy back to this country and really creating a pathway of trust so that our president and her could negotiate things like the biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War. She is the right person for this moment. And Tim Walz, he had me at social studies teacher. What we all need to know is right now we need a party that unifies people, that brings people together, that lets everyone know that they are valued and respected and welcomed at the table. As for me, it's pretty basic to want to feed children, to provide paid family and medical leave, to protect LGBTQ rights and labor rights. For me, that's pretty basic. To want to get us to clean energy, to want to bring everybody back to the table, to make sure that we are protecting public education. That's pretty basic. And that's what the Harris-Walz ticket will do. We are at an inflection point, as we've heard, time and time again. But make no mistake about it, we are going to have to work for this. The Harris-Walz ticket has provided a tremendous blueprint, a pathway forward. But us as Democrats, the people who care about people, the people who care about our neighbors, the people who want our country to move forward and not backwards, are going to have to put in the work. I'll end with this. One of the things that I've always said and that I've often told people, the gift of putting a teacher in a position of authority is that as a teacher, you learn how to love other people's children. This country, the state of Minnesota, has benefited from Tim Walz's love of other people's children, of other people's families, of wanting other people to survive, to thrive and not just survive. And now the entire country will have the benefit of that. We have, under President Joe Biden's leadership, created a tremendous start for where our country can go. And the Harris-Walz ticket will help us to continue to make that progress, to continue to close some of these gaps, to continue to make sure that all families have access to the American dream. And I am so thrilled, as a civics teacher, as a history teacher, to see that so many people, not only in my district, but across the state and across the country, are taking ownership of the outcome and willing to do the work so that we win in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Please welcome someone who's always there for us, our Senator Dick Blumenthal.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Another round of applause for Johanna Hayes. You know, we may not be a battleground state, but we have a battleground district here, and we're going to win it by an overwhelming majority. And let me just say, yeah. Democrats, again, are having a press conference and rally on a street corner and a parking lot in the midst of downtown Hartford noise, because we are of the people. And, you know, I know the governor is such a good friend. He would give me the shirt off his back. I want him, you know, the best part of this shirt? Turn around, Governor. Say it to my face. That, along with they are just plain weird, are going to go down in this campaign as one of the sayings you will remember. Let me just say, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. That picture is worth 1,000 words. That pantheon of women's leadership is worth 1,000 words. These women are not only leaders, they are our conscience. They are our conscience at a time of moral challenge, and they will give us moral clarity, which is what Kamala Harris brings to this ticket. It's not only the excitement of her wisdom and her wit, her intellect and her insight, it is her moral clarity that America needs right now at a time when we face a potential leader who says he's going to use the Department of Justice for retribution, who says that this election will be our last, who says that he is going to turn back the clock on women's right to reproductive care. That is not the leader we want. We want Kamala Harris as our next president. Now, you know, I sat next to Kamala Harris on the floor of the United States Senate for a couple of years. In fact, I sat next to her during the impeachment proceedings. And the two of us, in our remarks together during those proceedings, had some fairly trenchant things to say about Donald Trump, been on trial, one of his first trials. I also sat next to Tim Walz, for a couple of years when we were both on the Veterans Affairs Committee. And let me just say this. You know, he is a person of consummate authenticity. What you see is what you get. He is straight talking, plain speaking. He is a champion of American values, hard work ethic, commitment to teachers and education, commitment to veterans and to public service as a way of life. And I am going to be really proud to be advocating for this ticket. Tim Walz also brought to Minnesota. He enshrined into their law abortion rights, paid family and medical leave, access to college tuition free. These kinds of values, again, moral clarity is what we need. And Tim Walz is committed to supporting unions in the United States of America. Yes, unions, which, you know, we appreciate more and more these days. So I know we're all going to be behind this ticket. And I will just say finally, I have never seen Connecticut Democrats so unified, so fired up, so exuberant and joyful. You know, it's not just knowing the alternative is a catastrophe. It's we have joy in this election, unparalleled in recent history. And I'm really looking forward to coming back right here for a great victory celebration. Thank you all.
We do want to acknowledge we've been joined by the mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. And on behalf of the Connecticut Democratic Party, speaking of local elections, last year we flipped 30 towns from red to blue. And in 2022, we flipped 40 towns from red to blue. And that is made possible by our governor and by our lieutenant governor. The governor's leadership, making a real difference in working families every day, has made all the difference for our party to elect good people who are electing their communities and working on behalf of their communities. So please welcome the governor's partner in government, our lieutenant governor, Susan Bysiewicz.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And here we are in front of this beautiful mural celebrating fabulous female leadership. And when the artist, Michaela, who is an immigrant from Colombia, painted it on CRT's wall, thank you, CRT, for letting us be here. We appreciate it. When Michaela painted this beautiful mural, I don't think she realized that she was painting the future president of the United States of America. And I think that Kamala Harris is the best qualified person to be president of the United States, bar none, compared to some incredible presidents like Barack Obama, and compared to someone who shall not be named. She comes with the background of being a prosecutor, where she stood up to felons and fraudsters and predators and won. She was Attorney General of the biggest state in the country. She's been in the United States Senate, and she's been a partner in one of the best administrations helping working families. And so we know that she can win. And why do we know that she and Tim Walz, as her future second in command, can win? Because they will stand up and work to make an economy that is best for everyone. They will be inclusive because the strength of America is in our diversity. That's also what this beautiful mural represents. And she and Tim will bring a professional career of standing up for reproductive rights and freedoms, a career of fighting for LGBTQ plus rights, for women's rights, for labor rights, and for protecting and preserving our democracy. So here we are, 92 days before the election, depending on how you count. And it is time to meet the moment. And I know, with all of this energy and this excitement and this enthusiasm that we have seen all across Connecticut, all across our country, that we can win, because in every election since 1980, it was women coming out to vote that chose our president. And it won't be just women showing up to make their voices heard. Young people and people of color and voters of taste and discernment are ready to cast their vote. And so I ask all of us to do what we can over the next 3 months to ensure that Kamala will break through that glass ceiling. And I'm going to end with this, because a great gentleman from Willington was giving out buttons that said, "Yes, we can." So say it with me. Yes, we can. Thank you so much.
Please welcome our governor, Governor Ned Lamont.
All right. You'd never guess that Dick Blumenthal and I got the same invitation to the party, different attire, but same party, and we're united here. And Jimmy, to you and Nancy and the entire party being energized. Let's say something about vice presidents for a second. You know, Barack Obama chose an extraordinary vice president in Joe Biden. And Joe Biden was ready to be president of the United States. And remember, he rescued this country from the economic abyss. God bless Joe Biden. And he was smart enough to get a really great vice president in Kamala Harris. Kamala stood right next to him throughout those 3.5 really tough years, getting this economy back on its feet. And now we have Tim Walz to join the team. And I don't know, Dick was saying he sits next to Kamala at some of these events. Well, I got to sit next to Tim Walz. You go to these governors' meetings, and they can be a little dry sometimes. Not if you're sitting next to Tim Walz. This guy just makes you chuckle. It's just great. I mean, if I was sitting next to J.D. Vance, he'd be giving me a rant about some internet rumor he had just heard. But, you know, Tim Walz, he tells you about his dog doing a triple Lindy and coming back with a Frisbee. And I kind of ruined the governor's meeting, but I love sitting next to Tim Walz. That's some of the magic that man has. And I want to say something about this Connecticut vote. Connecticut, you know, we're the Constitution state. Nobody is above the law. Do you hear that, Donald Trump? Nobody is above the law. And by the way, this is the state that invented that Frisbee and invented the submarine and the jet engine and the Singer sewing machine. And they brought us the wiffle ball and Igor Sikorsky. And by the way, Keith Richards' lead guitar, he's right there in Weston. And we have a woman, Paige Beckers, had the jump shot. This is Connecticut. And Connecticut is 100% lined up between the team Harris, Walz. The very first T-shirt in America. You can get one for the party. So, Madam Secretary, on behalf of the Constitution State, we unanimously support with all 74 delegates the team of Harris and Walz. Go, fight, win!
On-topic questions, politics.
We anticipated the future. Go ask Mulaney.
Thank you.
Hayes, we had the Vice President come and campaign for you 2 years ago. Well, appear with you 2 years ago. Do you expect to see her back in the 5th district? And what do you think this Harris-Walz ticket means for your race?
I've already been texting back and forth, so I think that everybody knows how important it is for us not only to have a Harris-Walz presidency, but also a Democratic Congress and a Democratic Congress and a Democratic House. That's what it's going to take for her to get the work done that we need to do. So I'm working on that really, really hard. And what does it mean for my race? I never expected my race to be easy. I always plan to work for it, so nothing has changed. So I just say welcome to everybody who is alive and energized and coming back to fight for everything that we need to do. But I always intended to fight hard to hold the 5th, because I am working for the policies that protect the people that I represent, and that I've never strayed from that. So this excitement, this energy, I welcome it, but I was always going to work hard to make sure that no one from outside of my district comes in and inserts themselves and upends all the work that we've done.
For Governor Lamont, do you have any personal anecdotes or stories you can share from these governor's meetings? And also, what do you think a governor brings to the ticket versus a congressman or a senator or someone else?
Well, I'm standing in front of a bunch of congressmen and senators, so I'm going to watch myself here carefully. I've got some anecdotes, but if I could tell you privately, that'd be better. I just tell you, Walz is a guy that I love to be with. People love to be with him. I know all these governors, they're all incredibly competent. They know how to get the job done. I appreciate that. Walz does it with a smile that makes you happy.
Of the Veterans Caucus for the Connecticut Dems. So I'm glad to hear about the Governor Walz, being the highest ranking enlisted, because it's the enlisted people who work in the military. So I'm very happy to hear that. So, because my concern was always about veterans, and veterans not really being on that list of needed. You know, veterans need housing, veterans need benefits, veterans still on the at the end of the line on a lot of lists and a lot of circumstances. But what I'm hoping that we can start advertising and politicking by is the fact that Governor Walz was there with George Floyd. He was there with Philando Castro. He was the one who really pushed that. So there's also a need to engage the urban community. There's a need to engage black men, because Donald Trump has a focus on trying to tell black men that he's the one and he's not. So Governor Walz was really on the forefront of engaging and making that George Floyd justice, together. So I'm hoping that we can incorporate what he's done with George Floyd. He says Philando Castro's mother, they're best friends now because they've worked together. So I think that's very important for the Democratic Party to let them know that this is somebody not just being military, but also being someone who fights for the urban community and for black men.
Thank you. And would you like to come and talk to the state party people sometime?
Sure. There you go.
No, thank you very much. You're absolutely right. Yes.
I'll just say that that's what the Connecticut Democrats have done. We've tried to bring everybody to the table. And while there's one message where if you support one group or one community or help one group, you're pushing another group aside, we've always tried to say, no, we're here for everybody and welcome everybody and have fought for that. So to your point, there is no either or one or the other. That's what we've seen in the Harris campaign. Coalitions that we would have never imagined coming together. And one doesn't diminish another. It just says we are going to operate within our network to turn out voters and get this done. And I think that's how we win this, by engaging every network, veterans, the black community, the minority community, women, pet owners, everybody, like coming together to make sure that we win.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cat lady!
say one other thing. Within the party, before COVID, we had a number of caucuses: Women's Caucus, Black Caucus, Veterans Caucus, and different caucuses. But then with COVID, they've kind of gone on the back burner. But we're going to bring them back out so that different groups can feel a part of the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the press?
Was a shot of the back of your shirt.
Governor, back of your shirt.
Turn around.
Say it.
To my face. Yes, Susan. Yes.
I think I've already addressed that. They're saying that they would, first of all, Republicans wouldn't have been happy with anyone Democrats picked. But as far as Walz being too far left, if the metric for being too far left is feeding children and protecting women's reproductive health and protecting labor and LGBTQ rights and making sure we have stronger gun safety legislation, then I think that's just about the right place for me and most of the people in this state. And again, it's about bringing people together. What Governor Walz has proven time and time again as not only a congressperson but as the governor of Minnesota is that he can bring people together who are not strong Democrats, people who lean Republican, people who have different backgrounds, because he respects what they bring to the table and he's willing to compromise. So I don't think that he's too far left. What I do think, though, is that a Trump J.D. Vance ticket is too far right for anybody, even Republicans.
And one other point I would simply make, because there's no question that, when Minneapolis was going through, lots of unrest, he, definitely made strong overtures to connect with people and to have a discussion. But he also called out the National Guard, okay? Because Trump is already trying to claim that it was he that called out the National Guard that actually, brought order back to Minneapolis. Tim did it, okay? And which, as a governor, I mean, that's your authority. The president can't call out the National Guard in the state of Connecticut or anywhere else. And Tim also had a very strong record with law enforcement. He was somebody who believed in giving the police the resources. They need body cameras, equipment to do their job. And so, in Congress, he was a member of the Rural Caucus, which is far from the far left caucus. He was co-chair of the Dairy Caucus with, which represented dairy farms, just like I was another co-chair back then. He was not a member of the Progressive Caucus. He was somebody who was very centrist in terms of his record when he was in Washington. And again, I think that's all good for the Democratic Party. We have a big tent. We want people who can talk to, people from different parts of the country and different parts of people on the political spectrum.
We hear time and time again that the economy, people are worried about money, inflation. Do you think reproductive rights and Roe v. Wade and protecting religious freedom, those things will be key issues?
Well, again, just one other point. I mean, Minnesota has the 5th most positive business climate in the country, okay, while Tim Walz has been president. And it is a growing economy. When he was governor. And just like Ned, has been working hard to make sure that growth is part of the Democratic agenda. And he has, in my opinion, an absolutely sterling record to take to the American people that he is going to make sure this country's economy is growing, but it's also going to be growing for everybody, the middle class.
And I will say this, that I have been door knocking with candidates all across Connecticut, whether it's in northwestern Connecticut, the southern part of the state, the eastern part of the state, or central Connecticut. And what people will bring up at the door, men and women both, are, can we count on you, the candidate, to stand up for reproductive rights? Because people know that even in Connecticut, where we have a Roe state statute, that it is in doubt at the national level. So I think a lot of people care about that issue.
Hey, Sue, I'll take one other crack at the Tim Walz too liberal thing. I was reading that, and they said, what do you do? He had a $15 minimum wage. Well, I did that. And he had paid family and medical leave. Well, we did that. He stands up strong for abortion rights. Well, I think we did that. They accused him of being too liberal. They accused me of being too moderate. I think he's got it about right.
Any other questions from the press? All right. Thank you all very much, everybody. Thank you.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will